All right, folks. Welcome to welcome inside the numbers and happy holidays. Inside the numbers with the People's Pundit, little early morning edition, competing with my buddy Steve. Sorry, Steve, had to do it. Got to get on a plane. Look, yeah, we're going to talk about Trump's address. Obviously, the president last night he addressed the nation. Um, a lot of people was just back and forth about whether or not he was going to announce military action against Venezuela. I think some people probably did fall for that. But if you guys watched my interview with Grant Stinchfield, Mark Serrano was on. He's Trump's advisor. I mean, it was pretty clear. The White House signals were pretty clear last night that actually that's not what was going to happen. There were some people in Congress who said that. So I don't know, this idea that there was this like giant play and he trolled them and this and that. Like, guys, if podcasters are hearing from the White House that this is what's going to be in the speech, then believe me, the New York Post and Fox News and the Wall Street Journal and the rest of them also know. So, I'm not a big subscriber to this whole I trolled you thing, but I think there was obviously talk of that. And, a lot of the media coverage probably would not have happened if it wasn't for CNN and others maybe hoping that he did, in fact, do that before Christmas. Come on, give me a break. Anyway, if you like the videos, don't forget to like them and share, of course, far and wide. We're on everywhere, blah, 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 blah. You guys know the spiel, but the best place to follow us is on Locals, peoplespundit.locals.com, peoplespundit.locals.com. All right, look, I'm looking around. I intentionally didn't respond last night because I'm looking around X. I'm looking at everybody's takes, and I'm kind of like soaking them in. Some people got it right. Many people that you probably follow did not. And that's part of the idea behind the analysis of this speech that you're going to hear in a little bit, is the kind of world that we live in, one which I don't think most people really understand. If you are a Democrat, then you absolutely think that everything Donald Trump said was a lie. If you're a Republican, well, it's probably very clear, but then you may think he had a great speech. But there was two audiences that Donald Trump needed to reach last night. Otherwise, there was absolutely no point to have this speech. One is a disaffected part of his base. And I'll break that down in a little bit because it's not just one. And then the other is the middle, which he has very clearly lost. One take that I saw that I think is exemplary of this kind of lost in the sauce analysis from the right, especially from the old wing of the right, I saw on Fox News. And I'm going to play it right now, and then we'll just drum right into what I think. All right?
To watch President Trump give a 19-minute disciplined speech that covered that many facts was worthy of Ronald Reagan. That was a good speech. It was an important speech. Someday people will say it was one of the most important speeches of his career because it set the table for the entire debate over the next year and laid out what Biden did to make the country a disaster, what Trump has already done, and where we are going in general and why that's the right direction. I think it's
all right, that's enough. I frankly can't stomach any more of it. Disciplined, worthy of Ronald Reagan. Look, unfortunately, President Trump is surrounded by too many advisors like former Speaker Newt Gingrich. He's a wonderful man. He's a patriot, but he's one who still lives in another generation. That speech would have been good enough for Ronald Reagan, but it's not good enough for our times. That's not what we live in. That's not our reality. If you're a diehard Trump supporter to whom he can do nothing wrong, then you'll love this speech. You'll probably have heard much what Newt Gingrich heard. If you're a Democrat, on the other hand, then you are 90% likely to think that basically 98% of what he said, or 100% of what he said, is false, despite about 98% of it actually being true. The only glaring untruth in Donald Trump's address to the nation was that the claim that 100% of all the jobs created under his administration were given to Americans. When we look at the employment report, we've talked a lot about this on Inside the Numbers. When we look at the employment report, it is absolutely true that it is a great trend showing under Biden, foreign-born workers were getting most of the jobs. Under Donald Trump, domestic workers are getting most of the jobs. But this is a man who just had a fight with his base not that long ago, not like 6 weeks ago over H-1B visas. He has already extended another 120,000 of them, right? And we can go on and on and on, not to mention the new designed and laid out Trump Gold Card, which essentially sells citizenship to the highest bidder. This is not the America it was under Ronald Reagan, and his speech did not do enough to dissuade the angry elements of his OG MAGA base who are going to be unhappy with the things and are unhappy with the things that I just referenced, nor will it be enough to dissuade the absolutely apoplectic elements of his new MAGA base, the younger MAGA voters, who are still reeling over the mishandling of the Epstein files and that he bombed Iran on behalf of Israel. It did nothing to win back the middle, which was clearly the entire point of this speech, because anyone who's like me or does what I do for a living, you can tell that that speech was designed to do exactly that. He won over independents in 2016, folks, and in 2024 by speaking to their issues and by being deadly serious about the threat that the left posed and poses to the country without sacrificing his base, by the way. His advisors are telling him, and you can see it, be nice. They're telling him, be professional. Please, Newt Gingrich. But they're not giving the president the correct advice, which is one that does not make him choose. They are making him choose when he doesn't have to choose. It's a false dilemma fallacy. This is something that had plagued Republican consultants before Donald Trump ever came down the escalator. How do we gin up our base without upsetting the middle? And forever, their reply was, be nice, be professional, be what Newt Gingrich said, disciplined. It is a false choice. He can do both, and he has done both. Now, other parts of the criticism about the president, is that he blamed Joe Biden. He blamed Joe Biden. Let's just start with the beginning of the president's speech, and then we'll address that.
America, 11 months ago, I inherited a mess, and I'm fixing it. When I took office, inflation was the worst in 48 years, and some would say in the history of our country, which caused prices to be higher than ever before, making life unaffordable for millions and millions of Americans. This happened during a Democrat administration, and it's when we first began hearing the word affordability. Our border was open, and because of this, our country was being invaded by an army of 25 million people, many who came from prisons and jails, mental institutions, and insane asylums. They were drug dealers, gang members, and even 11,888 murderers, more than 50% of whom killed more than one person. This is what the Biden administration allowed to happen to our country.
All right, let's just stop it there for a quick second, because I'm going to play something else in between that. There's nothing wrong with blaming Joe Biden. It's the truth. And it works when it's done correctly, which is why Barack Obama used it successfully against George Bush for 4 years. Guys, he milked this strategy for 4 years. It's not a new strategy. I myself have advised the use of this tactic to multiple people in the Trump administration. The problem is that I suggested it months ago when it was still believable. And when all of the research suggested that it would be the most effective thing to do. For it to be effective now, which it still can be, there needs to be zero error with how the message is delivered and with the messenger. Blame your predecessor for the wrongs that are rightly attributed to them. Take modest credit for the successes that you rightly deserve, and lead with an empathy and an understanding that there is so much more that needs to be accomplished. The issue clearly arises with the strategy that you go out, the strategy of spiking the touchdowns, and when those touchdowns exceed the number of yards that you've actually run down the field. And when your empathy toward real world issues and the problems that real people are facing, the real world pain exceeds the victory laps that you think you're entitled to because you live in a bubble. There are those who always say, that's wrong, Rich. Let Trump be Trump. And that he's not capable of being empathetic. And this is a braggadocious man, and that's it. Take it or leave it. Well, those people must have just joined politics in 2024, because I remember a man who beautifully hijacked Roosevelt's 1932 Forgotten Man speech. And he first, you know what? Actually, we have that. This is possible. Listen.
Every day, I wake up determined to deliver a better life for the people all across this nation that have been ignored, neglected, and abandoned. I have visited the laid-off factory workers and the communities crushed by our horrible and unfair trade deals. These are the forgotten men and women of our country, and they are forgotten, but they're not going to be forgotten long. These are people who work hard, but no longer have a voice. I am your voice.
Look, that Donald Trump was angry too. He was angry that insulated bubble politicians had forgotten those men and women. Not that those men and women had the audacity to believe him and are now heartbroken that he's become one of those bubble politicians. This speech took me back to the 1992 debate moment when George Herbert Walker Bush looked at his watch. And he did so without empathy, even exasperation. Last night, I know what they were trying to do, but the president at times looked and sounded frustrated. Like he couldn't be bothered to give this speech. He spoke too fast, as if to rush it, so he could get back to doing whatever it is he was doing before, or he wanted to do at that moment instead of giving the speech. He seemed defiant and even angry with the idea that he would sit there and he would have to sit there and explain himself to the public in this speech. Put simply, man, his heart was not in it. And that will be, for those who already saw it, it was. And for those who will come to see it, it will be obvious to the neutral observer. Honestly, it also looked like Donald Trump didn't do much to prepare for this speech. Trump should have spent more time practicing for this speech that badly needed to be delivered to those forgotten men and women who now feel like he has forgotten them this first year, instead of lighting candles with the very people who have hated him the moment he came down the escalator, while those people, the forgotten, never left his side. So this speech wasn't horrible. It wasn't good. It wasn't much of anything. For most people who have even voted for Donald Trump before, maybe 2 out of 3 times, which is most definitely the voter that this speech was supposed to be targeted to, they will see the same Donald Trump they have seen all of these years and one they are frustrated with today. And it will have done nothing to dissuade them. And my dog's going off because our cameras are down and the security people are coming to redo the camera stuff. So there you have it. I don't really know what else there is to say about it. it isn't to me what it is to Newt Gingrich. And unlike Newt Gingrich, I have spent countless hours over the last year speaking to American voters. It isn't my intention to constantly affirm MAGA on whether or not Donald Trump is doing well or not. When he's doing well, I will tell you he's doing well. When he's over the target, I'll tell you he's over the target. When he's delivering and people feel like he's delivering, I will tell you he is delivering. And when he is failing to hit the target, I will tell you the same. I speak to MAGA voters, I speak to liberals who hate him, and I speak to the people who win elections in the middle. And this did nothing to dissuade their fears and their concerns that going to this new year, the second year will be any different. And to the base out there, I actually think it might have actually had the opposite effect. It might have actually hurt him more with people in OG MAGA who have been hoping that the old Donald Trump would return and that he would come back with his wrecking ball and finally smash everything. It didn't happen. So, look, got to get on a plane, got to get over there. I see you. And I'll be back when I can be. Road rate with Rich later while I run around and get my stuff and prepare for the trip. All right, guys, that's all I got. It's just the simple truth. There's not much else to sit and linger over. All the best.